Hello friends, it's Shari. Today I'm making a project with the Embroidered Snowy Star Details die from Poshta. These are designed to coordinate with the basic star dies which you see on the left. You will need to cut the basic star and then layer the detail die over top and cut the holes out in the center for the embroidery details. This die does come with a guide to show you what the stitching should look like when it is complete. I am starting by stitching the details that go up into the points of the star, and I am stitching these with some white embroidery floss. I'm using 3 strands, so I took that 6 strand piece and split it into 2. And what I like to do with straight lines, of course, is a running stitch up to one end, and then I will go back and fill in between. I do like to do stitches like this when it's a detail to get kind of my base line because all of those other lines come out from it. Now at the top of this there is a little diamond shape, which is what I'm stitching right now. And then as I come back down that sort of spine that I created, I will do the little pieces that come out from each side that kind of look like a tree. So I'll go back down this little spine, but now I'm going to do that little branch that's at the top, which is only 2 stitches. And then I'll do the one on the left side too, that is a mirror image of what I just stitched. Then I can come and complete the little spine piece again. Then I'll move on to the next one down, which is 3 little stitches here. So I have the one in the middle, then I did the outside, and I kind of do the same thing. I do a running stitch out from the center and then come back. It's not too important that you do the running stitch on these types of stitches because everything that's on the back side will be hidden inside of the star. When you're stitching the outside edge, it's a little more important to make sure those are nice and even and you don't overlap anything because you see that from both sides. So now I've moved on down to that third little branch that sticks out, and you can see how this is starting to come together. I do keep getting caught on the point of my star, which is a little bit annoying, but that's just because I am stitching fast and getting caught there. So you can see I've got all those little branches. I've got one more little stitch to finish my little spine area down here, and then I'll move on to the next one and do the exact same thing, and I'll work my way around my star doing all of these white stitches. Now for the center, you can see there's some very large lazy daisy stitches that come out from the center, make that loop, and then go back. And I thought these would be fun in some silver metallic thread. So I have that silver and I'm going to come up in the center. I'm just going to hold this in place with my finger. I'll make that really big loop, go back down in the center, and before I pull it all the way, I've got quite a bit of a tail here, which I need to kind of pull out. There we go. Now you can see that loop. I will come up the hole that's out there at the top of that loop, inside of that loop, and then when I go back down through that same hole, I'm going to go on the outside of the loop, and that will hold it in place. You don't want to pull it too tight. You want to be kind of loose with a lazy daisy stitch like this so that you don't pull that outside loopy part back into the hole. So I'm just kind of adjusting that a little bit, making sure that is loose enough and not pulled back into the hole. Once you get the hang of these, they're pretty easy to do. And this metallic thread is actually kind of nice for these big lazy daisies because it kind of has a little bit of form to it because of the metallic thread, and it will keep that nice loop going. So now I've gone back through the center and I'm going to do the same for all 5 of these loops. You can see I'm going to hold it here with my finger. That made it a little bit easier to do. Come up into the loop and then back on the outside. You can see how these are going to start to come together. That first one's always the most difficult getting started. But once you've got everything in place, you can see these are going to go really fast and you get this really cool kind of loopy star shape in the center. You could also do this in just a contrasting color. I just thought that the silver metallic would be a lot of fun. It really looks good on that red felt. So I've gotten around to my last one here, and then I just want to tie it off. And I'm just going to tie it off pretty loosely. I don't want to pull it too much. I don't want to mess up those beautiful loops that I have on the front. I'm just checking to make sure I didn't pull it too tight when I put it underneath that other stitch. And I'll just tie this off. Again, all this mess here, that's going to get hidden inside the star, so it doesn't really matter. I'm just adjusting it a little bit where I pulled that knot. And look how pretty that is. I think that turned out so pretty. Okay, the next thing I need to do is add any embellishments, and I am going to add a few beads to this. First, I'm starting in the center with a sequin and a bead. I use one strand of floss when I'm doing my sequins and beads, and a needle with a small eye so it can go through those seed beads really easily. So I came up through the center, through my sequin, added a bead, then went back through the sequin center, and that will hold it in place. And I can just tie this off now that I have one of those beads on there. And then I'm also going to add some beads at the ends of the little, what I say is like a tree branch, the pieces that stick out from that sort of spine area. So I'm adding some beads there. And for these, I'm just pulling from my stash some clear iridescent beads. And I will add one to the end of each of those little branches that are there. So just like this, you come up through the hole, grab that bead, go right back down through that hole. That bead will hold it in place. And then when I get to the top up here where I stitched that little diamond shape, which is a fun little detail, I thought it would be cool to add like a seed bead in there. So I'm coming up through that top and I'm going to grab a seed bead, actually, excuse me, a bugle bead, not a seed bead, and put that through the center. It is the perfect height to fit through that little diamond from the top to the bottom, and it kind of fills that in. It makes it look a little more solid. And then I'm working my way back down with those little clear iridescent seed beads at the ends of the little branches on the left side. And I'll do the same thing to all of the points of the star so that they all match. So I've got all of my embellishments done over here. Now it's time to put my two sides of the star together, and I'm using my batting trick to stuff my star. For this one, I have an open die so I can easily trace on the inside of my stitching holes and cut out a star that is the exact shape and size that will fit on the inside of my little felt ornament. So this is just a little trick. I think it's a lot easier to add the batting than to try and stuff it with polyfill. So this is the way I prefer to do it. And you just want to make sure it is small enough to fit on the inside of the stitching hole. So you can see there what that looks like. Now, if you want it even puffier, you could add 2 or 3 layers, maybe even a smaller one, and cut it down. Now to stitch my two stars together, I've got the back side, which has no embellishment on it, the batting, and then the front side. And I also want to make sure that I make my little hanger here. And I'm just using some white crochet yarn to do this. It's kind of a thin yarn I found at Hobby Lobby. It works great for hangers. And I just tied it in a loop, tied it in a knot, and the knot will get hidden down inside. So I can just kind of lay this in here about where I want it to be. And then if you want something to help you hold your pieces together while you get your stitching going, some little wonder clips come in very handy. And for this one, I'm going to start in an inside corner so that I don't have to worry about tying knots in the very tip of a star. That's kind of a delicate point in my opinion. I start in between the two layers of red, so go up through just the front, and then I'm starting that running stitch. Here's where I'm pulling in a wonder clip to just kind of hold the star together as I work. Once you get your stitch kind of around half of this, then it will hold in place nicely. But right now I only have about 3 stitches on there and I didn't want it to shift around. So I'm doing that running stitch, and for this project I picked the DMC floss that matches my felt. So this will be kind of blending in with the background, which really makes those embroidered details that I spent all that time stitching stand out. And what I want to do up here in the point is make sure that I catch that hanger between my stitches. So I'm making sure that, for instance, this stitch is going to come up on the other side of the hanger. I do want to make sure I don't catch the outside of the hanger in there though. If you have a ribbon, which I've done ribbon hangers before, I like to try and make sure that I actually thread my needle and my thread through the width of the ribbon to hold it in place. But since this is a little crochet yarn, I can't really do that here. You probably could, but it's just easy just to make sure it gets caught in between those stitches. So I am working my way around back to where I started, which was this inside corner right here. And for the star, it ended up nice and even to do every other stitch, so I am going to stop here and tie it off. So I came out between the layers just like I started, tied the two tails together, and then I'm going to thread that tail between the two layers and then out the back, and then chop it off. You could go back around if you wanted full stitches all the way around, but I like the look of every other stitch sometimes. And for this one, especially since it matches the background color and is not really seen, I think that every other stitch is nice. You can kind of see it a little better that way. So there is the big star. I also made the little star that matches using the same method. And I think that these are going to look amazing on my Christmas tree this year. I hope this has inspired you to make some snowy stars. Thanks so much for watching. Have an amazing day. Bye.